Need an excellent breakfast idea? Table. We have another really great recipe for you today for American Heart Month from the American Heart Association. And this is a breakfast recipe. I have not tried it before, but it sounded really good and interesting. So we're going to see how it turns out. It is a turkey bacon, spinach, feta, and sweet potato quiche. So the base of this recipe is going to be sweet potatoes. So this is the only part that really requires a little bit more legwork than the rest of the recipe. I went ahead and did this ahead of time just so that you guys could see what it looks like, but you're gonna grate the sweet potato. So we'll start with grating the sweet potato and then I'll move on to this to show you kind of how I press that all together. So you want, this sweet potato is a little bit small. We had a larger one. So think about 2 of these or just 1 large sweet potato will equal the amount that you need. So you need 2 cups of grated sweet potato. We washed this really well. You just wanna scrub the exterior of your sweet potato, and we left the skin on. So the skin has a lot of fiber and nutrients in it as well. So for this, since it's all grated up, you can't really taste the skin anyways. That it will just blend right in. There's no need to peel this. One more step that we don't wanna have to do anyway. So what you're gonna do, you're gonna get your little grate. You could also do this in a food processor if you wanna go that route, and you're just gonna hold it nice and firm and just begin grating it. And this is why I did this ahead of time, just because it would take me a little while and probably get kind of boring for y'all to sit here and watch me do this. But you get the gist. It will eventually turn into those little bitty grated pieces of sweet potato. And we'll actually just go ahead and throw this in our mixture, because why not? Don't want to waste any food, right? And I'll scoot this out of the way. So actually, once you get it done, you're going to spray your 9-inch pan, your pie pan really well. And then you're just going to push your grated sweet potato in and up. So just like you would a pie shell with, a traditional quiche, you would push it all the way. You'd have a pie shell that would go all the way up the sides. This sweet potato will be your pie shell. So it kind of seems mushy and like it wouldn't hold really well together, but once you start pushing it down, it does stick together. And once we bake it, it will all stick together really well. So you just want to make sure the bottom is fully covered and that you can get all the way up the sides of your pie crust. So the benefit of this is we're getting a really healthy vegetable in as our crust. So we're upping the amount of veggies that is in our quiche recipe, our dish. We're cutting back. A lot of pie shells are usually they're not whole grain. They're using that white, what we call the white grain. So there's not quite as many nutrients in there. So with this, we're getting a little bit, we're still getting those carbs that we get from your traditional pie crust, but it's also got those added nutrients like your beta carotene and the things that are just really good for our body, plus fiber. So there's fiber in the exterior of our sweet potato. And we know that fiber is so important for our heart. It does help to lower your cholesterol, up that good cholesterol, and it also helps to regulate your blood sugar as well. So, and it slows the absorption of fat too when you're eating fats. So there's a lot of benefits of fiber, and we know that we want to consume a good amount of that in our diet. So we have our oven to 400 degrees, and we're gonna bake this for about 20 minutes. 15 to 20 minutes, start keeping an eye on it around that 15-minute mark. and then we're gonna start on the rest of our recipe. So we're gonna throw this in the oven real quick. We'll see you guys back in just 1 second to move on to the rest of our quiche.
Whether you're returning from a family vacation, coming back from college, or even returning from serving our country, we know there's no place like home. And here at Performance Ford, we want to make sure you get there. That's why every Performance certified vehicle comes with the Performance Lifetime Powertrain Warranty. Performance Ford, welcome home.
Introducing the Star Communications app. All the tools you need in one convenient location. You can access Watch TV everywhere, check local channel lineup, check your Star email, view and pay your Star bill, report troubles, use your Star security app, check your home voicemail, sign up for Crowd Fiber, check your Wi-Fi speed. The list keeps going and going. Download for free from the App Store or Google Play.
All right, so we've got our crust in the oven, so that's gonna get nice and firm for us to be able to put the rest of our quiche into that. So what we're gonna move on to is just heating up some of our veggies that are in our quiche recipe. Now, I love a quiche with veggies. Gives it just a little bit more flavor, a little bit more texture. It doesn't make it just an egg pie. So we're gonna add our onion to that, and we're gonna use a whole onion, of course, keeping our root end, and cutting off that stem end. And actually, I'm gonna go ahead and put a little oil in our pan, just so that can get warmed up. So I'm using olive oil here. The recipe actually calls for canola oil. Any type of light oil will do. You've heard me talk about using those oils that are liquid at room temperature. So that is our goal, just because it reduces that saturated fat, and we're upping those unsaturated fats, which are good for us. So we're gonna cut this in half, and then I just like to go in and make little grooves. Got our nice sharp knife here. And then we're just gonna cut these so that they're diced. Try and get that root out of the way. So as you get closer, just go ahead and rotate that, and then I cut the other direction and just turn it so that I can use as much of that onion as possible. And we'll do the other side. I've got some of my root juice over here. So there's tons of different ways to cut onions. This is just my preferred method. You could definitely use diced onions, frozen diced onions as well. So I have done that. Y'all have seen me cry, and you know my eyes tend to water on when I cut onions. So I like to sometimes use just the frozen diced onions at home. You do what makes it whatever works best for you in terms of helping you to cook at home, save time, save money, do things that work best for you and your family. Now, the diced onions, I will say I feel like I don't get as much for my money as when I use fresh. Fresh, you don't pay much. These are like 89 cents a pound. And then, you know, you get a bunch of onion left over. So I enjoy using the diced frozen when it's convenient, but this is a better bang for your buck. So I think our oil's hot now. We're just gonna toss this in. Oh yeah. And we want to cook these until they're all the way done, so cook them until they're nice and translucent. I'm gonna turn it down a little bit. This is a triple burner, so it gets really hot really quick. So I actually have it on about medium to medium low heat. When I cook this at home, my stovetop is not quite as warm as this, so I usually go medium to medium high. So this will take about 6 to 8 minutes to get nice and cooked through. So the next thing that we're gonna use is uncured turkey bacon. So it's really good to use the one that has no nitrates or no nitrites in it, just because that is linked to cancer. So we want to reduce the amount of nitrates and nitrites that we consume. Now, most things that you find, so if you're buying deli meat or even bacon, some bacon does still have that in it, but most companies have switched to not including those. We need 6 pieces of these. So typically you're gonna find some that is safe to eat, but just keep that in mind. We wanna reduce that as much as possible. And if there's an option to buy it without the uncured, without the nitrates or nitrites, then definitely go that route. So I'm just gonna chop this up. My recipe actually doesn't give me any instructions for cutting this, but I'm thinking if it's in a quiche, it'd probably be better if it was all chopped up, mixed in, so that you get a little bit of that turkey bacon in every bite. So I'm just gonna chop it and then we'll end up adding it with our onions. Now you can definitely make this recipe your own. So if I were to make this at home, I would most likely be adding mushrooms into it, just because I love mushrooms. You could even do regular bacon. I'm not a huge fan of turkey bacon unless it's mixed in something, but you could do regular bacon, just cut that in half. So you use like 3 pieces of bacon instead of 6. Reason why we're using turkey bacon is just really looking for that lower sodium and also the lower saturated fat, because it is National Heart Month, and that means we want to do things, consume things that really take care of our heart. So we're gonna let these onions finish up. We'll see you guys back in just 1 second and we'll add this turkey bacon to it.
Getting a new car or truck doesn't have to be difficult or expensive. Just let Performance Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram swap keys with you. Bring in your current vehicle, we'll swap keys and get you into a new car with Performance Peace of Mind lifetime powertrain warranty for the same or less than you're paying now. We've got a lot full of vehicles to choose from, and there's never been a better time to shop than to start something new sales event. It's about performance, and performance is taking care of you.
Many things have been stolen away during this time of uncertainty. No crowds to cheer on their favorite teams. Applause and pageantry have been stripped away. Thieves are looking to make your home empty and silent. Star Communications has the answer you are looking for. Security by Star. Automation and affordability along with friendly service makes for a security choice that is sure to keep your family cheering.
Okay, so our onions are looking real good. You can tell that they're already getting nice and translucent over here, so it didn't take too long to do that. We're gonna throw in our turkey bacon, and we just want that to get a little bit cooked through. Honestly, I think you could skip this step if you wanted to. You're gonna be baking this again in the oven, so if you want your turkey bacon to get a little bit brown, then you could do this. If not, it's not a big deal. I am definitely a person who likes my onions cooked in things that I eat, so I'm not a big raw onion person, and cooking the onions ahead of time does really help to make sure that they're completely done and reduce a little bit of that cooking time in the oven. So keep that in mind as well. If you want a little bit more of a crunchy onion, then you could throw those in raw as well. Just have to keep that in mind. So we're gonna let that brown just a little bit. While that's browning, we'll make our seasoning mix. So we are using dried dill weed for this recipe. We're gonna need 3/4 of a teaspoon. And I love dill, it smells so good. It's not something I use very frequently, but I think it'll be really great in this dish with all of the combination of flavors we have going on. Okay, and then we just need 1/4 teaspoon of salt and 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. And I've mentioned before, it's definitely still okay to use table salt if you're hesitant on that. You know, it depends on what kind of health conditions you have personally, but if we're not using a lot of processed foods, then, and you're cooking foods at home, you're gonna be reducing your sodium significantly just by making food homemade. Now, we did use that turkey bacon, so I have to check to see even low sodium turkey bacon can still, or any type of bacon, or any processed meat can still be a little bit high in sodium, even if it says low sodium. So just keep an eye on that. What we always say, be a label reader or a label detective, and make sure that when you're shopping in the grocery store that you are keeping an eye on all of those things. Okay, so we're gonna stir this in. And then the next thing that we're adding is our spinach. So this is frozen spinach. So you could definitely use fresh. You'll just have to use a bit more. This is 10 ounces of frozen spinach. I did thaw it in the refrigerator beforehand, so it's already thawed, it's not frozen anymore. But we want to cook it just to get some of that water content out. Only takes about a minute or two to reduce that water. But that way it won't make for a soggy quiche. We want to avoid that, of course. So it looks really good. You see the nice pretty green. So what we're getting here is we've got a good amount of vegetables here. And then we do have a little bit of turkey bacon, or if you want to do regular bacon, you could do any meat here really. And that helps to give it a little bit more flavor. And then we're going to be using some eggs and egg whites. And the benefit of that is that we'll have some really good protein added to this. So your eggs do have a good amount, whole eggs have a good amount of fat, which isn't a bad thing for us. So there is a certain level of healthy fat, and eggs do have a lot of nutrients, especially that yolk. It's when we overconsume, and of course we get into those upper limits of saturated fat in our day. So we are gonna use 2 eggs to still get some of those good nutrients and healthy fats, but then we're also gonna be using egg whites as well. And you've heard me say several times that I prefer to buy the egg whites in the carton, just because I hate to waste a good egg yolk. It stretches a little bit further. You can add this to all kinds of things to up your protein a little bit and get that into different parts of your diet. So we're seeing that steam. That means that our water is evaporating really nicely. And our crust is almost ready as well. So we'll pull that out in the oven. So I'm gonna go grab that crust, and then we'll start adding the rest of our ingredients in, and it'll be ready to be complete. I'll see you back in a second.
Sweetie, will you turn that down, please?
Keep life exciting, even when it's not. Watch TV everywhere from Star Communications.
After completing my contract, I still have to buy out of it? Come on. Here's your sign.
Switch to the sign that's keeping home secure and customers happy all over the area. Security from Star Communications. We pride ourselves on fair pricing and quick, friendly service every time.
Somebody try to break into this place?
Security from Star Communications.
So our crust is out of the oven. You can see it's kind of got some brown around the edges. Keep in mind you're going to be baking this again, so you don't want it to be too brown because you're throwing it back in the oven for about, I think it's 30 to 45 minutes, 35 to 40 minutes. So keep an eye on that. You don't want to overcook it, but you want to make sure that it's cooked enough that it's not going to be, it'll hold up really well when you add in your egg mixture. So the next thing we're going to do is add in our veggies and turkey bacon. And spread that all around. And then we'll throw our egg mixture on top. This looks so pretty. I love all the colors that we have going on. All right, so I just mashed that in so that it'll have plenty of room for the eggs and everything else to also fit in. All right, so the next thing that we have, let's see if I can scoot this out of the way, is our egg mixture. So we have a little bit of skim milk. This is fat-free milk. We have 1/4 cup of this. And then we are gonna be adding in 4 large egg whites. So if you check your container, it will actually tell you how much that is. So 1/3 cup is 2 large eggs. 3/4 cup is 4 large egg whites. So that's what we want. 3/4 cup. And you'll just toss those in. That's still, your egg whites have a ton of protein in there, so without any fat, no cholesterol, no carbs, it's just protein really. So you get a really good amount of protein by just using those egg whites. So we're gonna add 2 whole large eggs in there. And remember, we've already seasoned our dish along with the rest of our ingredients, so we don't need to add any salt or pepper here. I encourage you to wait. A lot of times it's best to salt our food after the fact, and that way you can actually taste it. When you salt during, you tend to lose a little bit of that when you cook it. So to help keep that salt flavor without having to use a ton of salt, it's best to salt at the table if you're going to use salt. Don't salt during the cooking process. So we just mix that up and throw it on top. And just to be safe, I encourage you to use a pan to sit underneath your quiche, just because sometimes it can tend to overflow very easily, and this will just help to reduce that happening. So if you want to throw a pan underneath, that'll help to protect it. If there's any overflow, it won't get all over your oven. Last thing that we're going to be adding is this reduced fat feta cheese. I could not find fat-free at my grocery store, so the next best thing is the reduced fat. We're only using 1.5 tablespoons, so there's not a whole lot in here. I will mention that feta cheese has a lot of, it's very salty, so it has a good amount of sodium in it. So just keep that in mind as well when you're adding salt to your dish. You've got a good amount of salt already in the cheese you're going to be topping with. So as I said, we're doing 1.5 tablespoons. So I'm just going to, this says to dot, I'm just going to kind of sprinkle it as best as I can. This may be something that's easier to do with your hands versus an actual measuring utensil. That gives it really pretty color. And that will melt down, of course, once you have it in the oven. So we'll just kind of try to push them in there a little bit. And then you're going to throw that in the oven for 35 to 40 minutes, and it will be done. So really healthy dish for you to have. This would be even a really good one just to have for dinner. So it's obviously a breakfast, it's a quiche, you think of breakfast, but if you wanted something that's still savory but light, it would be really tasty for dinner as well. You've got tons of veggies in there, which is of course really great for our heart and the rest of our body. It's good for our bones, it's good for our muscles, tons of benefits, our eyes, all of our organs. We get a lot of health benefits from when we consume vegetables. So we've got a good amount of veggies here, and we've got a low amount of that saturated fat. So I hope that you guys will make this one. We'll show you guys what it looks like all done when it's finished cooking. But let me know what you think of this dish, and I hope you have a great rest of the month, rest of this National Heart Month. Continue to take care of your heart. We're going to be going into National Nutrition Month next. So we've touched on our heart. Now we'll talk about the things that we can eat to help benefit our heart as well. Y'all have a good one. We'll see you next time.